Hi, good morning. My name is Arjit Paul, and I'm the trainer for the Power BI course from Uplatz. Today's topic is scatter plots and bubble charts in Power BI. So, today we are focusing on two very advanced visualization techniques in Power BI. One is scatter plots, and the next part will be using bubble charts. So we are also going to have the other sections as well after this. We are going to use the option of visualizing data correlations with scatter plots. And after this, we are going to use the option of adding a third dimension with the help of bubble charts. Along with this, we want to understand how we can get the time series analysis in Power BI. So we have talked about brief of MTD, QTD, YTD. Today we are going to understand the business context. Along with this, we are going to take into account the business logic like gross profit, gross margins. All these things will be calculated in this lesson. So let's go to the Power BI Microsoft Learn references where we have the options to understand all the charts which we want to use. So let's try to understand scatter plot chart. Let me just search this, and if I'm going to documentation, we have scatter, bubble, dot plot charts in Power BI. We need to understand how we can be able to create scatter chart visuals in Power BI, which includes support for bubble charts and also dot plot charts. So scatter charts display data along a horizontal and vertical axis. This chart reveals how numerical values along with the two axes are related. So when data intersects on the two axes, Power BI displays a data point. You can analyze data points to identify relationship in your data. Data points are distributed evenly or unevenly across the horizontal axis depending on the chart data. You can set the number of data points to a maximum of 10,000. Tooltips are available for all data points. The tooltip shows details for the data based on the data represented in the chart. Bubble charts expand on the concept of data points by representing two intersected values with a bubble. The bubble chart represents a third data dimension that's useful for evaluation. While a scatter chart uses two axes, a bubble chart can support three data series where each time series has different set of values. So as you can understand, we can add a third dimension with the help of bubble charts. We also have the option to understand dot plot charts as well. So dot plot charts also employ the feature of scatter charts. So in a scatter chart, you can adjust the independent scales of the axis to reveal more information about the grouped values. Dot plot charts expand on the capabilities of the scatter chart by allowing you to add categorical data on the horizontal axis. So it expands on the capabilities of the existing scatter charts. It allows us to add the categorical data on the horizontal axis. The visibility of the category information can help you quickly analyze your data and highlight important points. Your chart settings can reveal patterns in a large set of data, such as showing linear or nonlinear trends, clusters, as well as outliers. So all these patterns can be understood in large sets of data. So we can see linear and nonlinear trends, we can draw clusters and also have outliers. These three visuals help to reveal relationships and patterns in your data. The chart visualizations can identify interesting information about your data that might not be readily apparent by just looking at the numerical values. The scatter, bubble, and also the dot plot charts are useful for comparing large numbers of data points without regard to any specific time. The more data you include in your chart, the better the comparisons you can make. So when can we use scatter, bubble, and also dot plot charts? We can see that we have all the visualization examples and the understanding of scatter charts, the bubble charts, and the dot plot charts, where if you can go to Power BI You can have the understanding of scattered chart. We also have the option of bubble charts as well, and adding bubbles, and also making this a fully fledged dot plot chart. So that is something which we can understand in the best way possible. Scatter charts work well in many scenarios. It shows relationship between two numerical values, plots two groups of numbers as one series of x and y coordinates, displays the worksheet data with pairs or grouped set of values, shows patterns in large sets of data, compare large amounts of data points irrespective of time measurements, convert horizontal axis into logarithmic scale, substitute for line charts for to enable the changing horizontal axis scale. So line charts can be substituted with scatter charts so that we can enable the changing horizontal axis. All the scales can be changed in a horizontal way. Bubble charts can be used in many of the same scenarios as a scatter chart. So here are some of the other ways you can use bubble charts. We can visually emphasize value difference with variable bubble size, support scenarios with three data series that each set has values, present financial data in a visual rather than numerical form, display data with quadrants. Bubble charts can be used to display the data in form of quadrants. Dot plot charts can be used. So use cases for dot plot charts are similar to the scenarios described for scatter and bubble charts. So the primary advantage of dot plot charts is the ability to include categorical data along with the horizontal axis. So it is mentioning to download from a data set. So we'll use it from our own data set, and we're going to try to create scatter charts. So as you can understand, in the data pane, we can select these three fields. The first one can be expanded sales and set the scales per square feet and total sales variance percentage checkboxes. Expand district and select the district checkbox. By default, Power BI creates a clustered column chart to display the data. On the visualization panes, the district field is assigned to the x-axis and the other two fields are assigned to the y-axis. We can now convert the clustered column chart into a scattered chart. So we can select this chart visual and then select scattered chart on the visualization pane. We can notice the change to the visualization pane where the district field is now listed under values. We can see that how it has changed from values, x-axis, y-axis, and legend. The chart axes are also different. We need to make sure that Power BI plots the sales per square feet along the x-axis and the total sales variant field along the y-axis. So we will be able to achieve all these steps. On the visualizations pane, we can drag the district field from the value section to the legend. Power BI then creates data points where the data values intersect along the x and y axis. The data point colors represent all the different districts. See these visuals carefully, that will give you an innate understanding of the scatter plot visual. Now we can add a third dimension by creating a bubble chart for the data. Right. So notice on the data pane, the year sales is added to the size section of the visualization pane. Power BI uses the value information for the field to replace each data point with a bubble. The volume size of the bubble is proportionate to the numerical sales value of the data point. You can hover over a bubble to see the tooltip, where the tooltip shows how the volume size of the bubbles is proportionate to the year's sales numerical value for the data point. We can change the number of data points displayed in your bubble chart. So we can go to the visualization pane, select the paintbrush icon to open the format section. Make sure that the general section is selected. We can, under properties, we can have the number of data points option, and we can have the high density sampling option on. The maximum number of data points is 10,000. When the configured value approaches the maximum, you need to be sure to test your chart output to ensure good performance. Because we have a value in the sales field well, we can adjust the marker range. To do this, we can select the paintbrush icon and choose visuals and then markers. We can change the marker range scale to auto, magnitude, or date range. This option is available only if the size field is populated and for all series when a chart includes multiple series. So auto is the default setting. We need to understand and we need to go through this material. So I'll request you to go through this article. This is going to be very important. Post this step, we can open the analytics pane for additional information in your visualization, like we can add a median line by default. So Power BI adds a median line for sales per square feet. So this line isn't helpful since we can see that there are 10 data points and know that the median will be created with 5 data points on each side. Instead, we can switch to series to total sales variance, so percent. So we can switch the series to total sales variance percent instead of sales per square feet. Just because it has adds more data points. So 10 data points are being added to get a median line, which will be based on those 10 data points. The next step is to create a dot plot chart. So it is easy to create a dot plot chart from an existing scatter chart. We need to just replace the numerical field that is aligned to the horizontal x-axis with a categorical field. On the visualization, we can build the visual pane where we can locate the x-axis option. We can select the x at the right of the sales per square feet and remove the field. We can add a new field to the x-axis option where we can drag and paste the district greater than district manager field from the data pane. Power BI creates a dot plot chart from the data in the existing scatter chart. The dot plot chart adds the district manager category information to the horizontal x-axis. You can see the names of the district manager along the bottom edge of the chart. So let us try to get all this information and let us try to see what we can achieve. I do have some key tabs added up from ChatGPT. So now I can mention some inputs where we want to see and require all the additional information by creating the visuals. So yes, I mean just I'm trying this prompt from scratch and we need to upload or we need to feed ChatGPT with some basic information. So I want to take out more measures and business terms like variance percent, gross profit percent, um, gross margin, net sales with the fields I have. Please help me with these measures and add more for day 27 topics where I want to create a scatter plot chart, bubble chart, and dot plot chart. Include new fields, include new tables with added fields if required with a foreign key. To connect with the dimension tables as a snowflake schema. Now we are going to create snowflake schema, and yes, I'm going to definitely explain you a little bit about the snowflake schema. Now let me just go to the Power BI report where we have the data view, the data pane, and I'm seeing that we have some tables, so I'm going to use the customer table. I'm going to hold some shortcuts to take the screenshot, and I'm going to feed ChatGPT this information. We are feeding the date table, then we have the fact sales table, and until now we have used star schema data modeling, where we have all the options and all the important metrics lined up. So in items table, let me just unhide the cost price. We need to make this visible. Let me take the screenshot again. And I just need this promotions table, nothing else. Use the data and yeah, memory. So let me correct this dot plot chart spelling. This is what we want, and let's go to, okay, let me just try to type snowflake over here. So if I type snowflake schema, we have attribute and attribute hierarchies. So this is what we can understand with the help of Power BI, where we can get star schemas, snowflake schemas, and all the relationships. So dimensions are collections of attributes which are bound to one or more columns in a table or view in the data source view. Each dimension contains a key attribute. Each attribute is bound to one or more columns in a dimension table. The key attribute is the attribute in a dimension table that identifies the columns in the dimension main table that are used in the foreign key relationships to the fact table. So typically, the key attribute represents the primary key column or columns in the dimension table. You can define a logical primary key in the table in a data source view, which has no physical primary key in the underlying data source. So we can have the attribute hierarchies as well. So I would request you to go through all this information. So by default in a star schema, all attributes are directly related to the key attributes, which enables users to browse the facts in the queue based on any attribute hierarchy in a dimension. In a snowflake schema, an attribute is either directly linked to key attribute if the underlying table is directly linked to the fact table, or is indirectly linked by means of the attribute that is bound to the key in the underlying table that links the snowflake table to the directly linked table. So this is getting from the database side of things, and we can just type snowflake data model. We have Power BI data sources, documentation. So, okay. Now let me just ask this question to ChatGPT itself, because this will be the most important part of our lesson. One of the most important parts. Okay, seems like just a bit lost over here. That this is fine. Let me just cross check what I have typed. Okay. So we have asked for all these measures and it is now giving us what we want. Let me just copy this once. Let me just duplicate this. Please explain me this with examples and make new data sets which can link with the could be indirectly linked to the fact tables. So let's understand about Snowflake schema at first, then we can go to the more understanding of the visuals. So we have talked about star schema where it's based like a star, and you can see that there is one moment. As you can go to the modeling view, you'll be able to understand this is a star schema which is working. So all the fact, or there's one fact table, fact sales, been connected to all the dimension tables with the usage of foreign keys in the fact table and primary keys in the dimension table. These tables are not linked with each other directly, but as you can see, the data is flowing in a downstream way, and the cardinality is a one-to-many relationship. But Snowflake schema is an extension of the star schema where dimension tables are normalized into multiple related tables. So you can see that in a star schema, the dimension tables are denormalized, but in a Snowflake schema, the dimension tables are normalized. So in a star schema, all dimension tables directly connect to the fact table. In a Snowflake schema, dimension tables may be split into multiple related tables or sub-dimensions, often to reduce the redundancy. This results in some dimensions not directly connecting to the fact table but being linked indirectly through the other dimension. That is what we can understand. We can continue with our dataset example where we have the following tables. We have fact sales, customers, items, date, and promotion. Fact sales contains all the transactional data like sales amount, quantity sold. Customers contains customer related data like name, gender, favorite category. Items contain the item details like the item name, price, category. Date contains the date related data for time based analysis. Promotions contains promotional information. So in a Snowflake schema, instead of having a large customer table, you can split this dimension into smaller related tables such as geography and user roles, which indirectly links to the fact table via the customer table. So we can create this option. So we can create a Snowflake schema. Let's add two new dimension tables. Geography contains information about the customer location, city, state, country. User role stores the information and responsibilities of customer like admin, non-admin, manager. These tables are not directly linked to the fact sales table, but they are linked through the customers table, forming a Snowflake structure. So we can see that the design which already exists, and it is creating this new data set. So this is the updated data sets which we are using. So if you can go forward to this, the first is the geography table. This table will store details of the customers. It will indirectly lead to the fact sales table through the customers table. Users roles table, guest user role ID and the role name. So this table holds the role assigned, and also it can be linked to the customer table. So this can be the updated table. The customer table will now include user ID and geography ID to link with the user roles and geography tables. So this is what it needs to understand, that these options needs to be included to the customer table. We also get the fact sales table. This stores transactional data and it's connected to the customers table. So this is what we can understand. Can say make the tables correctly to confirm what we actually need. So let us go to the report. Let us go to the table view, and so you can see that there are 15 customers with user roles which are admin as well as non-admin. We see that there are 15 unique customers. So we need to understand how these tables can be made correctly. So ChatGPT is on that task. In the meanwhile, we need to understand the new measures which can make the difference as well. So in a business, if we create the KPIs, These are the key performance indicators, and these terms will define how the business will profit. So we have the first measure for business metrics, which is gross profit. This is the difference between selling price from the items table and the cost price. So in gross profit, we are putting the sum x option into use, where we are summing the item is minus the selling price minus the cost price. I think we have already made something like that, but it's fine to try to understand new ways of working. And in today's lesson, I'm going to create this new measure at first. These business terms are very important. So gross profit is one of the most important components of any business, and we are going to make this measure right now. The second part will be gross profit percent. This calculates the percentage of gross profit relative to the selling price. So now if we go to day 26, we see that we have a card visual enabled. So I'm just going to copy total revenue from there and I'll just drag it upwards. And now I'll change this to the gross profit. If I'm changing this now, we see that the gross profit is 1.5K. Okay. This is the gross profit which we are getting from the items. So we can correct such measures. That's gonna be fine. We can get the net sales as well. So this can be calculated as total sales minus the returns or discount. So we can calculate the net sales as well. Let me just try to get the net sales. Mm. So if you go to the promotions table, here we have discounted percentage adjusted, right? Let me just try to see this works. We see that we have a capital S over here. Okay, we can see that we are not able to get this option as of now, so that is absolutely fine. Let's try to get this variance sold. It seems that we don't have some of these supportive measures created. That's why we are having this option, but that is absolutely fine. Let's try to get this all information. So to properly align the tables, we need to ensure that they're correctly structured for 15 customers. Now we can see that the customers table is updated with user ID as well as geography ID. So first we need to ensure that all these customers can be updated properly with the proper geography, right? So we have the geography ID as G00124, and we have customers from Mumbai, New Delhi, Kolkata, as well as Bangalore. So in order to get this information incorporated, let's try to go to ChatGPT, and we can incorporate this with the help of Excel as well. It's very simple. It's just a one-step plan. So we can go to a blank workbook. We can just drag all these fields. And now we see that we have the updated geography information which we require, which we need. So this is one sheet where we can put it as updated customers table. Second sheet, let's try to incorporate the geography table where it contains all the geography and the correct information. So from which city, from which country we are talking about, it's from India. So the geography will appear in that way, and that will be really stunning when the final portion is ready. I'm just gonna say this as geography. Third part will be the user roles where it has admin, non-admin, and manager. Great. So I want to understand, does anyone has U003? Yes, we do. Okay, that is great. So let's take this as user roles. And the table stores can be connected through the customers table through the customer's ID. And this is really, really important what we are achieving right now. We can save this as Snowflake. So we have saved this information. I'll just cross, and if I'm just going to, again, let me just go to the transform data. So in transform data, we have the option of new source. We choose Excel workbook, and let's try to understand where have we stored this. Let's go to downloads. Okay, one moment. I don't think it's stored to downloads. I think it got stored into OneDrive. So let me just go to Snowflake. I'll go back. I'll go to the table. I'll just save this. I'll go to File, save a copy, then go to Browse. So I don't want to save anything in my OneDrive file. I'll delete this later. It's best to store a local copy because of some security reasons. So we're going to Cafe Report. Now we got Snowflake. We open this. And now we see that we have three tables. We got geography, updated customer table, and we have the user roles. I'm gonna import all these three tables. And now we see that we have the geography information, the user role information, and the updated customer information. However, we want to keep store and we want to use and keep using this customer table itself. But now we have some additional information like user role ID and geography ID. So we can see that the ID, customer ID is remaining same. So let us just bring this information by merging or by joining so that the information is not lost. All the visuals, all the charts which we have created, we don't want to lose any of these charts. So we choose this customers table. In the updated customers table, we have chosen the customer ID to create a left join, something like a left outer join where it will go all from first, then it will match from the second. So if we press over there, we can see that we are getting a table where we can expand all the rows which we need. We just need the user ID and geography ID. We just disable use original name columns and press OK. We got the user role ID and the geography ID. The updated customers table is not needed. We can just disable the load and automatically this won't add any load to the database, to the entire structure. We can just close and apply. And now we have incorporated new tables into the data set. Again, just close and apply. Let's go to the cafe report. Now it is incorporating couple of tables like user roles and geography. And now if we go to the model view, we don't need all this now. We can just talk about this later. Let me just switch it a bit backwards. 70% seems fine. Again, this is the dark mode, which is the new options which we are having. Okay, we have missed one step. let's go to transform data again. So we have looked into the tables, we have joined the customers table, we have the user role and geography ID. So let's go to user role. We see that it's not transformed properly. So we go to the home tab, and here we have all these columns. We can choose use first row as headers. It is now using the user role ID and role name. We can do the same for the geography table. Use first row as headers. It is using the first row as headers right now. So this is an option which is a functionality transformation step in Power BI, right? If we again go to the transform data, and in geography, we see that we have the city, state, country as well. So city, this information is defined as text, state, country, everything is defined in this way. We can have the coordinates, we can get the geolocations, and now that will be very insightful. So I can just say, can you make an extensive geotable with coordinates and more cities? Um, 15 customers with at least, let's try to understand, make it 5 from nearby areas. I want the customers to be within, let's mention few towns, within few Hooghly towns and some parts of Kolkata. Let's make this data much more accurate. Some more towns like Bhadreshwar, Chandannagar. These are all nearby towns which you can understand. So we're gonna get a deep dive analysis. And Kolkata. Let's try to create and recreate the geography information, so that we need to actually maintain something which is far more realistic. So let's try to update this memories, and it is now creating the updated geography table with latitudes, longitudes, and more relevant information. So I just want to understand the geography ID. So now it has geography 1 to 15. And now it is updating the customer table as well with the new geography data. That is really amazing. This really makes more sense. Let's try to update this information. So we go back to the Snowflake dataset, and so this isn't saved to the PC. So this is what we can understand. Now, if we just expand this, we got the updated customer table with geo IDs ranging from 1, 6, 8, 5 to 12. So really a lot of information has been incorporated over here. So we have a lot of geo IDs, right? You can get the customer information, and we also have the geographic ID right now. So let me update this into the Snowflake table. Moment. We are now updating the entire data set. Great. So we can just close this. Let's go to cafe report. Let's go to cafe report, and we need to have the option to refresh, and just press refresh all. See, the information has entirely got updated. So does this joins, and the entire steps of the user roles also got updated along with the geography table. And if you can see, the updated customer tables have also got updated, and that is why now we are seeing more geolocations for the original customer table, where we see 8, 2, 4, and 12. Up to 12 we are seeing all this information. So this is what we can do as a data analyst. We can minimize our steps, and we can ensure that we have the correct information which we need. So yes, we have in latitude, longitude, we can define this data into many components, right? So we can try to detect the data type. It's showing as decimal, but essentially it's a location, right? So it won't be a decimal point. So we can also ask this information to ChatGPT if we want. If we can confirm the data type which we need, the correct data type should be set as decimal point or floating point. So this is what we required. So data category should be set to latitude and longitude. So we can get this in the data category for latitudes and longitudes. For now, let me just save this as decimal number. Nothing fixed. We need to celebrate, and we need to make sure that this is corrected. So we can go to home and then close and apply. All the transformation steps has been completed wonderfully. It is now creating this information. And just to get an insight, if we go to the table view, and let me just shorten these tables, we see that we have the geography table over here where we have latitude and longitude. The data type is here as latitude and longitude. We can get this information, and we can sort this from the latitude column, from the longitude column. So these informations can give us important insights. Like previously we had tried to use the map visual, we had used shape maps, field maps from existing business analogies which we were trying to use. So okay, you don't need this information in here. You can just get a card visual, and okay, we don't need this. If we can just get the a different visual, if we can just get a map, we have the map visual, we do have the field maps, shape maps, and also we have the option of Azure maps. But we also have the best option, which is ArcGIS map, then which is one of the most important application which we can use. And this is a very important application which is using the best capabilities of the map visual. So if I just, I'm not able to drag this anyhow, I think it's getting locked. This is fine. I just want to expand this and drag this to the top. Makes more sense. So we can sign into ArcGIS maps where we have location, latitude, longitude. So now we can make sure that we have the geography field as well, where we have the city information, where we put this into location. In latitude fields, we can put this into latitudes. Okay, showing the latitude doesn't support aggregated measures. We don't need to show aggregations, so I'm not sure what's happening over here. That is fine. Let's go to the simple map option over here. We do have the city. Okay, let me do one thing. We see that in ArcGIS maps it is locating us to India, as this is the best visual which we want to represent by. So it's showing that the city information is in India. It doesn't support measures or aggregated numbers. Okay, we have the geography ID. So if I want to change this latitude and longitudes, how will I able to do this? Can push the city and let's try to analyze and let's try to understand this. Let's try to understand the data. So in geographic field, we have the cities, states, countries, latitudes, and longitudes. So what can be done so that we can achieve this information? So we have the option of data category in properties field. So in data category, we can work this and we can change this to latitude, and in this we can change the category to longitude. Going back to these visuals, we see that we have some insights right now. We have the city. If we go to the latitude, okay, it's still not showing this, still mentioning it's giving errors. I'm not sure why. That is fine. We can just get the city information, and here in these filters we can just try to select all and then unfilter the selections which are out of a particular city or a particular state. So we want to analyze this particular information from state. So okay, let's go to city first, and in country we can add this. It's the same country, India. If we just go to state, we see that we are having most records from West Bengal. So we just select only one state as of now. We just select West Bengal, and we see the data points are lying here. And this is one of the most important parts and one of the most important visualizations with the help of the aggregated data in Power BI. So this calls for the geography field, and similarly for the user roles, we can connect this in the best way which we want to. So now we have the updated information. Now we can create all these insights which we want. So now we can explain with the snowflake schema how this is linked up. If we can go to the model, now I know it looks a bit more complicated, but let me just drag this. We have this user roles table, which is linked to the customers table. So let me just change the structure of this entire model. We have the date table, items table, promotions, and geography. So let me just push all this over here right now. We don't need all these tables, so we just push it aside in a different way. So this is the data model I want you to structure and understand from a bird's eye view, from the perspective of data model. Measures table is the disconnected table, so we are keeping this in the top right. We just push the promotions table, make the fact table a bit more larger so that we can be able to understand the data context. Items table aligned properly, date table is fine. So this is what we need to understand. Let's take the space for customers table. So here the user roles are getting indirectly connected with the fact sales table, and so is the geography table. So those two tables are getting connected with the fact sales table with the help of the customers table. So this is the snowflake schema, and without all these tables, if we have only a fact table and all the dimension tables, then it forms a star schema. So this is what we can understand. If we now go back and understand data, so let me just remove this. So maps are not required for this lesson as of now. So let me just remove this visual. Let me remove this card altogether. We want to focus on um, extreme all these visuals in an end-to-end way. So if I go back into my research and what information which I have conveyed, I can just go down and now I can get the new measures and also understand this properly. Now help me create all the visualizations required for day 27. So let me just update the information. We have these additional tables of user roles. And as you can see the connection over here. So from geography table, we see that there's a line. So geography ID is present in customers table. It is connecting with the geography ID. So geography ID of the geography table is the primary key. Geography ID of the customers table is the foreign key in this situation. Another interesting fact is similar with the user roles table, where user roles ID is getting connected with the customers table. We see that there is an unnecessary measure which we can remove. We don't need this as of now. So we can keep all the measures in this disconnected measures table. Right? We don't have any errors. And this is the best part of data modeling. We need to be conversant and we need to be understanding of all the ways we can model the data in the best way possible. We have now presented all the information which we need and also the entire data model as well. Also explain the data model as a data architect. Now we can take the help to create all the visualizations which are required with the advanced dataset, with the new information which we have. So we have also explained and understood the advanced form of data modeling where we can use and we can normalize all these tables into many rows. That is going to be very useful. So to assist, first we can get a scatter plot visualization chart. So scatter plots can be used in a best way possible to understand and to highlight the difference. So it is used to visualize the relationship between two quantitative variables. Each point represents a data observation, and the positioning of the point shows whether there is a correlation present or not. Here we can see we can get the visualizing the data correlations. So we can use the quantity sold from the fact sales table as a starting point. Let me just go back to the reporting layer. And now we want a scatter plot, scatter chart. We are just gonna use this option, and most of the visuals they're placed in the right hand side. So this is what I want to use it as a values. I'm gonna use the quantity sold as a scatter plot in, okay, so it is being set up like values, x-axis, y-axis, legend, and size. Okay, we can get the amount sold as well. Let's try to compete and compare this. Great. So we have the x-axis and the y-axis as well. Let me just try to get this to chat GPT. We need to mention these fields very well so that it can get the information. So these are the fields for scatter chart. Please update the visuals accordingly. Okay, we're seeing that there is some time to restart, so we can reschedule this. Let's reschedule this to um, 7 a.m. seems fine. Okay. Along with the scatter chart, we have some options like pie charts, donut charts. So we are going to talk about scatter chart over here in this lesson, not any other charts for this day. And we can ensure how we can get the end-to-end way for all the charts. Okay, 27 along with the insights. Give me one moment. All right. To help you with visualizations for today's day, now we can get the proper scatter plot visualizations and the information as well. So as you can see, we have x-axis, y-axis, values, legend, and we can understand why do we have the values field. Why are you ignoring it? Let's try to understand. Why do we have one specific field which is not being used? And also we can also have the play axis field as well. So what is play axis field? So we are absolutely right to ask about values and play axis field in Power BI. Let's explain this in details with examples and why they're important. So values field is used to add the numerical data that you want to plot on the chart. Specifically for scatter plots and bubble charts, it is an essential part of visualization because it determines the size or impact of your data points. Suppose in standard scatter plots, the values field might not always be required because the points on the chart are positioned based on the x and y axis. However, if we want to aggregate to show the sum, average, or other metrics for the data points, we can use the values field to plot metrics that might not be directly represented by either axis. It's very important to correlate this with our data set. So if you want to show the total revenue per customer, you can place the amount sold in the values field and it will sum or aggregate the values for each of the data points, right? So amount sold can be done and it can be placed in the values field for a particular amount of chart. And if you want to get this information, Let me just absolutely get this example proper. So in this case, the x-axis can be the quantity sold as well, and y-axis can be the average discount. Values can be total revenue aggregated by customer, right? So if we just go back to the customers table, anyway, just let me use these options in legend. So in customers table, we have, wait, yeah, customers table, we have name. We can use this as legend. X-axis can be the quantity sold. So again, going to the fact sales table, we have the quantity sold. Okay. We are having a lot of customers, a lot of data points, options. Can get these options in amount sold, and quantity sold can also be in x-axis. Let's summarize this. We are now summarizing the amount sold, summarizing the quantity sold, and why are we using all the customers? The name can be based on top end filtering. Let's filter this, the data points, but to be very precise, let's try to put is as the top 10 customers when the basis of the amount sold, which makes more sense. We can just go to the legend and position this into, try to position this into top left. This is not really carrying out this information. So, okay, we have top left stacked, and then we have top right stacked. So I think this makes more sense over here to put this information, all the names and how the correlations are existing. So it is grouping by names, and it has the sum of amount sold and the sum of quantity sold, right? This is what we can correlate, and we can understand where we have the quantities and we have the revenues. So this is one of the most important visualizations which I wanted to talk about, because in the scatter plot chart we are comparing this with two kinds of variables instead of one. And yes, we are seeing that sum of quantities field is just getting now. We can just define this with the average. So for sum of quantity, we are also getting the average of quantity sold. If we just use the average of amount, it does not make much difference, but sum is creating a very nice correlation between the average of quantities and the sum of revenue. We can see that the quantities are in the y-axis, the revenue is in the x-axis, and this is what it is using as a correlating effect to create an amazing visualization where we can set up this. And as you can see, in x-axis it is showing the quantity sold. We are now pushing this in amount sold and average. We can simply change this, so we can get this average, or how is it mentioned that in the x-axis we are putting the average, in the y-axis we can put the amount sold as well. This is also one way of correlating proper information in a chart, but again it is losing a lot of information because we are not able to expand on this. If we just relate and drag this forward, now it makes more sense. If we just put the summarize now instead of average, again, the start needs to be elongated a bit. Still won't make sense unless we average this. This is just the reverse, where we are comparing a correlation between the quantities with the revenue. And here in the y-axis, we put the revenue, and x-axis, we are putting the quantity. Instead of customers, we can group this and we can correlate this with, you can say something like item name. So now if we put the item name options, we can see there are items like butter chicken, which is amounting a lot of sold amount, but still it is showing in this visualization. But there is some options which we are not getting, like prawn masala, which is just in that zone. If we just go to the average, it's still losing some information. I can go to the legend part. I can just tag this into the top left, right? And into this visual, instead of the x-axis on the average, we need to understand the data points. The data mentions that the x-axis is going to be something where the information is going to be very, very properly segregated. So we can put this amount on the x-axis, and that is something which is accommodating. We can put the y-axis as quantity sold. And again, as you can see, instead of sum, if I just push with the average, and instead of sum of amounts sold for the top 10, we can just push this now. And in item name, we can go to just top 5 items on the basis of amounts sold. This is what we are able to achieve. We see that prawn masala is at the top, and the revenue it is generating is 6,600. That is one of the most important parts of a scatter plot chart, how we are able to convey this information in an end-to-end basis. We can also have the total quantity versus total amount sold, where the scatter plot helps identify high value and low value customers. High value customers, customers who purchase large quantities and have high total sales. Low value customers are customers with lower quantities and amounts. So we can already get a correlation and also get the outlier identification as well. So this is all about scatter plots and scattered charts, and we have learned about how we can make the most of our data sets. And similarly, if we just go to the bubble chart, a bubble chart is an extension of the scatter plot. It adds a third dimension, like the size of the bubbles. It is useful for seeing how the three variables interact. It gives a 3D information understanding. So we can create a bubble chart in Power BI. We can add the promotion impact from the promotions table as the third variable from the bubble chart. So how can we get the promotion impact? We need to understand and calculate this as well. So if we can go to chat GPT, we can see that here we have also used a bubble chart example. So the values field is critical in bubble chart because it determines the size of the bubbles. The bubble size reflects the magnitude of a particular metric. So in bubble chart, we can show the sales performance. We can use promotion impact as values. So we can get this DAX of promotion impact, DAX example, which can be the average discount. If we can go to the measures once, we don't seem to have anything related to average discount. I'm going to create a new measure. And we have the average discount. Okay, it is already being used, it's mentioned. Okay, that's fine. Let me just cross check this. Okay, it is discount percentage adjusted, makes more sense. So let's try to modify this option. In the x-axis, we can put the quantity sold. Let us go back. X-axis, we need the quantity sold. That is great. In y-axis, we can get the amount sold. So we can get the sum of amounts. And in legend, we can get the category from the items table. So if we can go to The items table, we have the category in legend, we have main course, we have starters. Okay, let me just go back to the data tab once. Let me just move all these filters. Now we see we have beverages, spread, main course, and starters. We see that there is some very, very important analysis which we are getting. We see that main course has sold 42 quantities. The sum of amount is 19,300, and all the other categories have been sold for 13, 15, and 8 times. The revenue is around 1600. That's fine. Instead of sum, let us just go to average. Even in the average, we can see that the average amount is 1286, where we see that the average amount is 650, average amount is 591, average amount is 533. Instead of summing, we can put this as the average of quantities, and both, if we can compare, the average is 2.80, but all the others are just lacking behind as 2.67. You can see that this is 2.50, and the average amount needs to be understood. The average amount is way less, and it's just getting out of this chart where we can understand very clearly the correlation which exists. So we need to sell more of beverages, bread, and starters. And as a data analyst, we can just represent this data in such an amazing manner. And the size can be the promotion impact or the average discount. So if we can go to AVG, let me just go to size, and this is what we are getting. We now have this as a bubble chart as well, and these bubbles are being displayed. The play axis is a unique or dynamic field in Power BI which can allow us to animate our scatter plot or bubble chart over time. We can put the month or year option from the date table, and if we just go to the play axis, let me just type month. We have the month option over here. I can just go to the visual pane, and in play axis I push the month option. We don't need so many months, we just need to compare between August and September. That is going to be fine. And if we just run the play axis, we see that we have the sales for August and also for September. So that is basically the importance and the essence of play axis. So we are getting the scatter plot chart and also the bubble chart as well. So how can I make a dot plot chart? We also can see we don't need the play axis for now, so I'm just going to turn it off right now. We see that we have options such as symmetry line, ratio line. For amazing analysis, we can get the trend lines and a median line as well. So this is one, we can assume that this is a median line, and this is one of the most important analysis which we are getting from Power BI and from the advanced options as well. So in Power BI, a dot plot chart is not a built-in visualization. We can create a similar effect in the scatter chart. So how can we create a dot plot chart? So in x-axis, we can choose a numerical value, quantity sold or amount sold. In y-axis, we need to add a categorical value like item category or customer name. So let's go to the y-axis. So we don't need this. We go to sum of amount sold, and in y-axis, let us use the item category field. or customers field, right? We can put the customer name or the item category. Can we? I'm just trying to understand. Right. Got it. That is something that we can achieve. So that's fine. We can just go to the format tab, and in the format, we have the option of markers. Instead of this option of a marker, we can just choose this as a dot plot. So now we have a dot plot chart enabled here as well. So this is basically what we need to ensure. And this is the most important insight which we can use the help of Power BI with. We can create this, and we can create a dot plot chart at one situation, and we can create a bubble chart in another situation where we have the size and also the understanding of the bubbles as well, where the ratio is from magnitude to scaling, and the ratio can be auto, and the size can be increased in nature as well. The size of the bubbles can be increased, and this is the most important part. We are able to understand and analyze. So all these three visuals and all these three charts are forming the cornerstone and heartbeat of the Power BI time series analysis and also correlation analysis, rather. So, this is what we need to understand in the best way possible. Again, I don't need the ratio line over here. Ratio line is fine. I can keep the ratio line. We have median lines, percentile lines. All these options can be added, where we can add a constant line in the x-axis. I don't think we need a constant line in the x-axis. We can just push this. We can put this off for now. We can get a constant line in the y-axis as well. Can just change that, and this is what we can understand from each of these options. So first we have talked about scatter plot chart, then we have talked about bubble chart, and we have concluded with dot plot chart. So this is what how we can understand and analyze items by categories. We can also analyze by different types of metrics, like instead of category, we put something as, let's try to put something as customer. So we have a lot of customers, as you can understand, sum of quantity which has been aggregated, and name can be used with a top n with the sum of amount sold. We can go to the fact sales axis. We have sum of amount sold, and now we have filtered this with 5 records, with the top selling customer being Anjali Singh. That is going to be really amazing. Instead of size, right? Instead of size, we can put this as, we can put anything. Put the amount sold. Amount sold will return the same information. We can compare this with other categories as well. Instead of promotions, if you want to understand something like gender, if you want to categorize with favorite category, we can have all those options as well. But that is essentially what I wanted to explain. With the help of all these options in size, we can get the plotting in a very, very amazing dot plot manner. So we need to add context to this, right? We need to add our proper understanding. So in items, the item name will be very important as well. So in legend, if I just go to item name, now we are establishing a connection between a different metrics, a different type of component altogether. And then we can drag the item name in the field. We can go to top n, can go to top 3 on the basis of sum of amount which has been sold. Now we just have three categories, and we see that one category is not even visible, but that is the benefit which we can be able to make. That is what we understand. We also have some informations like zoom sliders as well. So we do have the option to zoom this and also to get the best insights in the correct manner. We can get the category label as well. All these options are used to get the best of our information. So in axis, instead of sum of quantities sold, we can just switch this. We can just make this option in x-axis as, right? We can put the amount sold in x-axis, and now it is now switching over where all these options, and here we see all these three categories are in three different places: prawn masala, butter chicken, malai kofta. These are all in three different places, so we need to be very careful of how we are using the data, and we need to use our charts and our understandably our business sense and our business logic in a proper manner. So this is what we have talked in today's lesson, where we have learned to categorize data. We have learned to maintain really amazing dot plot charts, bubble charts, as well as scatter plot charts. Until the next lesson, thank you so much.